So we're just, again, really, really thrilled to have you all here. So many who have put in a tremendous amount of work, and to have Christian joining us. So Ani and Mel Claxton, who I think Mel is on here as well today too, had the pleasure of in the honor of speaking at the Summer Learning and Enrichment Collaborative that's through the U.S. Department of Education, to talk about all of the good work you all have been doing. So before we jump into things, Christian, I just wanted to give you the floor for a moment to introduce yourself and say any words.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to meet this crew. Let me just say, if you want to invite me to any other Friday meetings, I would love it. I have heard about amazing teams, flossing. I've heard about who works on Fridays. This is the type of group that I want to be a part of. I think whoever's point it was about who, when we all were in my previous life, where I had to be in the office more often, Friday 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock meetings were those kind of no-nos. But now in virtual space, I think we all try to take up every single second of the day. So, if we could squeeze in that 5 o'clock to 5:30, which would normally be commute time, I think that's the difference. But I would say, unfortunately, I have a 6 o'clock today, and I have expressed the same exact sentiment. Who in the world decided to do that? It was the secretary, so I had to be quiet. I just wanted to just say, first of all, thank you for the outstanding work that you're doing. I can say that because I'm paying attention, and I'm largely paying attention because I had the pleasure of meeting a couple of your team members a couple weeks ago, and then listening to the amazing presentation that was given 2 weeks ago. My name is Christian Rhodes. I'm the Chief of Staff of the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education at the department. Prior to this role, the Chief of Staff for Prince George's County Public Schools in Maryland. Pretty large district and I sat in a seat very similar to many of you. I was responsible for all partnerships for the district, so all the MOUs, data sharing agreements, background checks, kind of building the partnership-based collaboration across, whatever the priorities were. So I understand the work at a practitioner level. I always like to look at who I see in the crowd, and I see someone from Boys and Girls Club, and I always have to say I am a Boys and Girls Club kid. I grew up as a club kid, worked at the club. My mom and my sister worked at the club. When I got to this position, the first people I called was the Boys and Girls Club and saying, look, you're normally not in these conversations at the department, but I want you there because I recognize the value of community-based organizations and those who all their work is focused on how to support students. And if we don't figure out how to extend the ecosystem of public education to our partners outside the four walls, we're doing a disservice. So here's a little bit of the work that we're doing. We had about $122 billion that we were responsible to put on the street right after the passage of ARP. And I know you're going to get a full briefing on it. I think you'll hear a lot of the great work that's happening, but ultimately the urgency around that is to ensure that those resources get to the students and families who are impacted the most during COVID-19. And there's a refreshing atmosphere around equity that this administration is demonstrating through action. What I've said to anybody who I've talked to over the last 3 months I've been with the department is that, I had a pretty good job. I was straight, I didn't necessarily need this particular challenge, but what caught my attention was that there was an equity in action focus, not just talking about equity for the academia's sake, but actual demonstration of putting dollars and resources where their mouth were. And I'm happy for that opportunity. I said recently on a call with the Harlem Children's Zone that this pandemic is likely the effects of it are going to be here for generations. But the opportunity that we have is ours right now to seize. And I'm excited about the opportunity that we have. We're also engaged in a Summer Learning and Enrichment Collaborative, and it was mentioned earlier, but I just got off a call as we're planning every 2 weeks, we're doing something related to summer. And we recognize that for most of you, you've been planning summer all year round and looking at innovative ways to do the right work. However, not everybody is like you all. It's a little secret. I know it's recorded, but it's true. And I talk to states across the country, and districts across the country. There's people still challenged in how to do this work right. How do you pull 70 plus partners around a table and say, hey, look, we're going to focus on students and their families and ensure that we can have some equitable outcomes for for all. That's not easy work. So you all have done a lot of that. And then we're also engaged in a best practices clearinghouse, where we're taking some of those learnings we've gotten from all over the country and putting them in one singular place so that districts and partners can learn from each other. And I've encouraged the team to submit some of the practices that you've engaged in. My job, I think, here as I close was just to reiterate that, I believe the Assistant Secretary, the Secretary of Education, and the administration truly believes in the role and power of our community to support all the objectives of the Biden administration. Now, they didn't give me no talking points on this. This is really how I honestly feel. I really believe that there is a demonstration that it can't just be done by government. And it just can't be done by the private sector. We need partners, nonprofits, we need foundations, we need school districts, we need the public library system, and we need, the housing authorities and locales. We need everyone around the table, park and rec centers, thinking about how can we best support students and their families as we come out of this pandemic. So you'll see a demonstration of that through the department. In our office, elementary and secondary ed, which is responsible for all the K-12 resources, which is close to like 300 billion over the last year, you will see a demonstration of what stakeholder engagement means to us. It's not just checking a box, but it's listening to those in those communities and people most impacted, and making sure that we can demonstrate where their comment is reflected in our policy. And if it isn't, then we haven't done our job appropriately. So thank you for the opportunity. I am not always excited about talking to groups, but you all definitely eased my anxiety when I heard about flossing and Friday afternoon meetings. So thank you so much.
Christian, thank you so much. And I'm sure that I speak on behalf of the group that is just so refreshing to hear. And we are just so grateful for you and the work of the secretary and the department and the administration. And what you said is just hitting on exactly the work that we've been striving towards, is true community impact and partnership. And for a Friday afternoon, this is a group that, I wouldn't want to spend with anybody else. So I think that, we're thrilled to have you here, and I'm thrilled to have you be a part of this collaborative and to hear about this good work. But before we dive in, I just wanted to give James a moment. James, if you had anything you wanted to share, James Fogarty, Executive Director of A+ Schools. Christian, just for some background, A+ has been the backbone of the Pittsburgh Learning Collaborative.
I just want to say thank you to all the good work. I mean, I learned long ago that you hire smarter, more talented people to do good work, and I've been blessed that Ani and Kate have come on as consultants, and that we've been able to pull together a team of just so many good people who are already doing good work. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to have you here today, Christian, but also for the rest of the funding community that's able to be here, and all of our partners for all the work you've done to help what Kate will present here in the budget book to make this possible. We know it doesn't hit on everything, but we also had a short timeline, so we're real appreciative of everyone's hard work in trying to scramble to get something together. And we just see this as the beginning of a conversation with not just our school districts, but to Chief of Staff's Rhodes' point, with our housing authorities, with our county government, city governments, state government, to say, hey, here's what we're seeing in our communities. Here's what we know as organizations that work with children and families. Here's where we think you should be prioritizing your resources, and have that dialogue. And we're grateful to the Pittsburgh Public Schools and to others who have said, hey, we're willing to open and engage in that dialogue with you. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's done good work on this, and just so grateful for the opportunity to be able to do this work in our community here in Pittsburgh.
Thanks so much, James. So again, everyone, I can't thank you enough. And for those of you who don't know about the budget book, so what we've done is we've put together, really it's an opportunities, how we see is for partnerships and advocacy with school district partners, right? As Christian mentioned, there's a tremendous amount of funds that are coming, and we really see this as an opportunity to engage the community. I don't think that we have it all right. Nobody, I think, ever does, but we wanted this to serve as a starting point for getting to the table and having conversations. We also know that the districts have a tremendous responsibility with this. It's not going to be easy in order to, really engage, as Christian said. This isn't just checking a box for community engagement, but really engaging with stakeholders, listening and responding. And we thought that maybe this would be a help to some of the districts in our area. So we're really here and we're trying to serve as a resource and really trying to get folks to the table. So I'm going to share today just kind of a proof of the budget book. This is an ongoing draft. Just today, I received another email from UPMC, who's also interested in being a partner on this work with us. So there will be more submissions going in. We plan to also submit a volume 2, similar to what the department is doing, looking at best practices, not only for in terms of reaching youth, but also, for the engagement that we've done and the build out of the advocacy work. This is really timely as well. On Monday, the state plans are due to the department to talk about how they'll engage with stakeholders. And shortly after that will come the LEAs. And we know that Pittsburgh Public Schools has released a press briefing saying that they are preparing to engage in a robust community engagement process, and we're looking forward to seeing what that will look like and being a part of that with them. There was also an op-ed for those of you who didn't see this morning in the PG, encouraging the district to really think about transforming the landscape of education in the city in this moment. Right? This is a moment. And today I'm really excited to be joined also by a few of our partners that are in the budget book. I just wanted them to have the opportunity to share a little bit. This is just a small snip of folks who have contributed, and then we will share out, but I did want to introduce them. So we have Dr. Lisa Abel-Palmieri, who's with us, Sarah Toulouse, Jenna Barron, Yael Silk, and Carlos Carter. I'm going to read their bios because they're very impressive people. And then I'm just going to ask them to share a little bit about their organizations before we just kind of do an overview of the budget book and then answer any questions or any feedback you guys might have. So Dr. Lisa Abel-Palmieri is a nonprofit leader with over 20 years of experience who is passionate about shaping the future of learning and designing equitable experiences that engage the heart, mind, and innate skills in youth. She was most recently the executive director and chief learning officer at a progressive high school focused on bridging education to employment skill gaps in the region for students who've traditionally been untapped for STEM careers. Lisa has been a classroom teacher, an after-school program director, a STEAM coordinator, a director of technology, and has held positions in industry and workforce development, training and marketing, a decade before entering education in nonprofit spaces. Most importantly, Lisa's a champion for youth and enjoys longstanding relationships with her past students who are now adults. And Lisa's here representing the Boys and Girls Club of Western Pennsylvania today. You'll also hear from Sarah Toulouse. Sarah is the executive director of ASSET, Achieving Student Success Through Excellence in Teaching. ASSET is a Pittsburgh-based education improvement nonprofit dedicated to advancing teaching and learning. ASSET provides educators with rigorous professional development and coaching to help them increase student achievement and foster the development of 21st century workforce skills. Jenna Barron is with us today as well. Jenna is the founder and executive director of the Alliance for Refugee Youth Support and Education, or ARISE, as many of you know. ARISE is a Pittsburgh-based nonprofit that organizes a variety of out-of-school time programs designed to equip immigrant youth with the resources they need to take their place as leaders in their communities and throughout our world. Yael Silk joined the Arts Ed Collaborative in the executive director role in April of 2018, and she has worked with school districts and arts organizations across the country with a focus on strengthening arts education offerings. Her work is focused on evaluation, professional learning facilitation, and culturally responsive practices, with the goal of ensuring equitable and engaging arts learning opportunities for youth in school and community spaces. And finally, Mr. Carlos Carter. Carlos is a native Pittsburgher and executive director of the Homeless Children's Education Fund and motivational and keynote speaker at Seeds to Fruit Motivation. His compelling life story and ability to overcome challenges to achieve success and fulfillment in both personal and professional spheres puts him in a great position to motivate, lead, and inspire. Prior to joining HCEF, he was a consultant for Holy Family Institute and Nazareth Prep and held various vice president roles in the banking industry for more than 16 years. Carlo has a passion to empower people and organizations to realize their potential. And I think you see that through all of their teams and their organizations. I would say that all of those folks do just such an amazing job, and we're so excited that you're here. I think for reference, it might be helpful if I show my screen with the budget book so that you all can kind of see what I'm referencing. Many of you received a copy of this morning, and this will be shared widely and publicly here after we get some of our revisions done. So as I mentioned, this is our budget book. It's not perfect, but this was our starting point for advocacy. So you can see here, these will all be hyperlinked in the electronic file, and then there will be page numbers, obviously, when in the printed version. But you can see we kind of broke this down as opportunities for partnerships and school district engagement. So we're looking here at creating system change. We're looking at homelessness, out of school time and after school supplemental supports, supporting community schools and organizations, supporting English language learners and refugee students, and also cross-movement solidarity, like we had talked about and Christian had touched on earlier. You know, none of these policies are independent of one another. Housing impacts education and so forth. So we kind of give a justification in the beginning. We do a little background on the PLC and the work that we've done. And then there's a write-up here on the American Rescue Plan, which you all have been briefed on. And then we get into our partnerships. And we really believe here that we have all the resources in Pittsburgh to holistically meet the needs of children in our region. And our hope is that this book will serve as a resource for school districts and providers alike to build strategic partnerships for a better tomorrow for youth. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Carlos to start us off. Carlos, if you can share just a little bit about HCEF and kind of what this money could mean to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I guess that's one of the advantages or disadvantages of having a name with a C. So, so basically, yeah, my name is Carlos. I'm with Homeless Children's Education Fund. We've been serving thousands of students annually for more than 10 years, and we do it with love and compassion. That should go without saying, but that doesn't always happen. You know, our mission is to empower kids to break the cycle of homelessness through education, guiding them to be productive and empowered citizens. You know, our kids are the light. I always say that our job isn't to be the light. Our kids and families are the light. Our job is to help remove shade so their light can shine. And so we believe, you know, that our kids and families are amazing. They just need a little extra support so that they can have access to the slices of American pie, just like the rest of us. You know, we rebuild on, we leverage their strengths and support them to be contributing members of society. You know, we're one of a few organizations in the country that focus on the education of children and youth experiencing homelessness. There are, I think, identified 3,500 most recently, and that number is definitely a lot bigger than that. And so we support them in various ways through our backpack programs. We give out thousands of backpacks each year. And one mom said that she didn't have to be ashamed this year because she had the resources, you know, to support her students for that year. And that's so important. Through our emergency funds, where we help them with various needs, bus passes, food, whatever they need. Because it's hard to be awesome when you're hungry. You know, the awesomeness is there, but when your basic needs aren't being met, your ability to be awesome is challenged. So our job is to help bring up that awesomeness, as I say. You know, we do it also through our building blocks programs and after school programs where we, you know, help to get kids at grade level. As we know, students experiencing homelessness are oftentimes way behind. And so our job is to give them learning strategies, but build on their social emotional as well. We also work through our teens. We're a very innovative program, thanks to the Heinz endowments. And I think it was you know, Stan's idea actually to work with students who are doubled up, get on path to college and careers. So that's been a great program, but also meeting their material needs as well. We give out scholarships every year through our Hope Through Learning Awards, which is a very awesome program, one of my favorite. Just really exceptional students who have been through a lot, but really show the promise of what can happen when students are loved and supported and know that they matter. And so, and we also are about to kick off our mobile learning, which I think these funds could help support as well, where we're taking it to the streets, as I say, you know, taking mobile learning right to our students and families. You know, we have a very transient group. So we have to be creative in how we reach them. And this isn't just sparked by COVID. We always wanted to do this. COVID just created an opportunity for us to bring a lot of our vision forward to life. And so I'm really proud of my team for doing that. And again, ARPA funds could help in many ways. Presently, the district does not pay a penny for any of our services. but we still deliver like they're paying them to us. But I think if we receive these funds, we could do a lot more and have even greater stability as an organization. I think these funds could do innovative things, as I highlighted in the book here, to provide prepaid cell phones to students, increase identification and outreach efforts, which is critical, right? Because the data is showing, data should indicate, not lead, because the data is giving us wrong information, because there's barriers to identifying students. And so we need to be more creative with that. The funds can help with that. Waiving technology fees for purchase insurance for kids with computers. We talked about earlier how we had the one student who her computer, she had to literally hold the charger. She's dealing with many things from COVID, et cetera, but she's also having to hold the charger while she's on her homework. And that's not fair for any students. Our students deserve better, and we will do better for them. And finally, and most importantly, is just improving transportation for our students to get to out of school time programs. We know that's a big barrier. There are many programs out there, but there are challenges around resources. When I grew up, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I grew up with a wooden spoon, so I know what it's like. And obviously, I am my students, and I think that's why I have greater empathy for them. And I am a product of Pittsburgh Public Schools as well. But I just say we need to leverage these funds, be innovative, be creative, and do what it takes, and working together as a village, as we say. It's a statement that's always said, but it's not always lived out, to serve our students and families with love and compassion, and find creative ways to meet crafts and just to help them meet their needs so they can just be fully who they are. And so that's it.
Carlos, thank you so much. And thank you for all the work you and your team do every day. We really just so appreciate you all. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Abel Palmieri.
Hey, Kate, thank you. Great to see so many of you here today. I've worked with so many folks in the virtual room today, and I owe a lot of just the inspiration and the ideas for what Boys and Girls Clubs do to many of you in the room. So really pleased to not only talk about what Boys and Girls Clubs of Western Pennsylvania is doing and how these funds can impact and change outcomes for children, but also just really thank many of you in this room for being an inspiration and part of all the amazing innovations that happen. So BGCWPA, heard a little bit earlier that there's some awareness of what the clubs are. We are the 15th largest Boys and Girls Club out of the 1,600 Boys and Girls Clubs in the country. Last year, really about the last 14 months, we've served 12,000 children through our program, services, and outreach. And we have 14 locations right now. 50% of those locations are based inside of school districts or charter schools, and the other half are standalone buildings. Of those locations, we have 8 licensed certified sites through the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and 2 licensed preschool programs for ages 3 to 5. In addition to that, we are also located inside of 7 community partner sites. I see some of my friends in the room right now. We go to their buildings, kind of push in to offer some of our services and programs there within and beyond the city of Pittsburgh. We serve over 22 school districts and other LEAs, including traditional, charter, and cyber charter schools. We work with over 55 individual schools in 2020. And demographically, around 72% of the families that we currently serve are single parent households. Generally, the head of household is female. We also serve 68% students who identify on membership forms as students of color. And we serve over 4,500 teenagers who are often forgot about during the pandemic in terms of their needs, because they don't necessarily need care. However, they do need that social emotional support, that academic readiness, so we can set them up to be those promised scholars that we know they are. And we run the Pittsburgh Pirates RBI program, so serving lots of kiddos through that, because we don't want to forget about sports and gross motor. We have a partnership with the Federal Department of Health and Human Services to run our teen outreach program. We use the evidence-based Wyman TOP program, as well as funding from Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention and PCCD in Pennsylvania, focused on limiting recidivism and juvenile justice issues in our youth. Been running that program for over a decade, as well as working with our fabulous partners at Allegheny County DHS on our Great Start program, where we have referrals from JPOs and others to help kids get just on the right pathway and stay on the right pathway. What makes our programs unique, though, is when we level it up to youth workforce development, and they can earn wages, they can earn micro-credentials and certifications, and soon to come, some of our pre-apprenticeship programs, particularly with our Artificial Intelligence Pathways Institute, which is a 2-time PA Smart award-winning program that is quadrupling in size this summer to the many sites we're offering it. And at the end of the day, last but not least, is really just this idea of ensuring, similar to what Carlos shared, that kids know how to read, They have the best chance to activate and advance their potential for the future. We provided 1,900 hours of literacy training and literacy skill building in individualized group, small group instruction across the last 14 months to our kids. And so right now we want to continue those things that started in the pandemic, like our Club on the Go program, which has included thousands of additional kids because of that transportation issue Carlos talked about. We're able to reach them in these asynchronous ways through Club on the Go. We've hired 2 delivery drivers, which are currently college students. We're able to employ them. They're able to help reach the kids through this Club on the Go program. And I see my friend Tyler's in the room. We worked with AIU and some other school districts last summer and continue on into this school year with online programs and virtual programming. We've been able to serve a few additional 1,000 kids through virtual programs. So what it would mean to us to be able to have access to ESSER funds, to have access to these funds is frankly that we can serve more kids. We are in a unique position where we are licensing and certifying all of our brick and mortar and school-based buildings. So we know we can bring in revenue from child care work subsidy. However, there's always a gap there. There's a gap for families. So here's an example of a story right now. We have a single mom. She is a Pittsburgh Public Schools family. And, you know, her copay after CCW is $47.50 a week. Her take-home pay is $32,000 a year. She does not have $47.50 a week to pay Boys and Girls Clubs for her to participate in the programming. Our mission is to not turn kids away, but there's a gap in funding. There's a gap there. And so the hope is that we can partner with school districts. We can clearly, through using software like Lexia, Dreambox, and others, as many of my other co-providers in the room use, we can clearly show how our programs in the OST space combat learning loss. That's a non-issue. We can demonstrate that. We have to really come together though to think about how we can share these funds, because right now I can tell you with the many school districts that we work with, including PPS, 100% of them have currently shared that they cannot share their ESSER 3 allocation and ESSER 2 is already spent. So we're in a position right now where if we can come together as a PLC, as a whole ecosystem community to put kids first and meet needs, we can impact more kids, keep them safe, keep them off the streets, keep them enriched, keep them as close to grade level as possible, but also set them up for access to programs in robotics, artificial intelligence, arts, music, where oftentimes those things get pushed down when other things have to take priority. So thanks for letting me speak, y'all.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much for all you do. I'm going to turn it over now to Sarah.
Hey, everybody. I'm Sarah Toulouse. I'm the Executive Director of Asset. As Kate mentioned, we are an education improvement organization based here in Pittsburgh, and our mission is synonymous with our acronym. So ASSET stands for Achieving Student Success Through Excellence in Teaching. And so what we do on a daily basis is provide educators with professional learning and coaching with the goal of increasing student achievement and fostering 21st century skills. We are rooted in things like inquiry and human-centered design, place-based learning, all with the undertone of empathy. And we've been able to work since our existence, throughout our existence of 27 years, with thousands of teachers who've in turn been able to impact tens of thousands of students. We've been very fortunate over the years to receive numerous state and federal grants, including one from the US Department of Education. It was an Investing in Innovation grant, which enabled us to solidify our coaching model. And we use that model to inform all of our work that we do today. Most recently, and through the Pittsburgh Learning Collaborative, and obviously as a result of COVID, we spearheaded a remote tutoring initiative where we matched PPS students with pre-service educators from a local university. And not only did this provide under-resourced kids with more than 450 hours of academic support in just a few short months, but it also provided pre-service educators with the student teaching experience and additional coaching that they otherwise were unable to get because of that pandemic. So we looked at it as a 2 birds, 1 stone type of approach, and also looked at it from the lens of learning loss is happening not just in a K-12 classroom, but it's also happening within our pre-service teacher population. And we have the ability through our organization to help offset that as well. So we do know that high-dose tutoring is one of the most effective ways to address pandemic learning loss and to accelerate academic achievement for under-resourced learners. And our desire with these funds would be to scale up and expand upon the initiative to further address learning loss and support the educator pipeline, soup to nuts. And we know that the educator shortage is of huge concern to all of us, and there are a variety of ways that we can tackle this. And fortunately, the remote nature of this work enables us to provide remote job-embedded professional development for classroom teachers throughout the school year, utilizing a virtual platform. It's really flexible, it's efficient, and it can meet educators where they are. So we think that the work that we're doing right now is absolutely relevant, and this funding would have a tremendous impact, not just in our region, but potentially beyond. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Yael.
Thank you. I just want to invite folks to take some lovely Friday afternoon breaths. And if you're on your camera and you want to do a stretch break and want to go off camera, I'd like to read something and invite you to move your body however you need to kind of make sure we're all doing all right. So, for students living in a rapidly changing world, the arts teach vital modes of seeing, imagining, inventing, and thinking. If our primary demand of students is that they recall established facts, the children we educate today will find themselves ill-equipped to deal with problems like global warming, terrorism, and pandemics. Those who have learned the lessons of the arts, however, how to see new patterns, how to learn from mistakes, and how to envision solutions are the ones likely to come up with the novel answers needed most for the future. That is excerpted from Art for Our Sake by Ellen Winner and Lois Hetland, that they wrote in 2007. So with that in mind, wanted to, for those of you who are new to Arts Education Collaborative, we are a regional intermediary organization supporting school districts, supporting arts organizations, and the fabulous humans that work in them, our teaching artists, our education staff, our K-12 teachers, our school and district administrators. And our mission is to collaborate with all of these educators to unlock the transformative power of the arts. I do this work with one of my co-conspirators, Anne Quinique, who is on this call. Thank you for being here, and other supporters of our work. I saw in the chat a request for the quote. I think it is embedded. This will be like a little pitch for the budget book. It's embedded in the AEC section of the budget book. So check out the budget book and you'll get beautiful words. We'll try to insert poetry into the budget book. We do what we can. So thank you for that. So that's like a snapshot of what we do. And what I really wanted to share in this time and space is how we're thinking about the ESSER funding at Arts Education Collaborative. And I have some additional words of poetry that Tim Smith from Center of Life helped me craft, inspired by Arundhati Roy's piece about the pandemic as a portal. If the pandemic is a mirror, what is possible for youth when we see present inequities and recognize our capacity for change? If the pandemic is a portal, what is possible for youth when we commit to moving through it, ready to imagine another world? If the pandemic is a call to action, what is possible for youth when we answer with courage, curiosity, and open hearts? And so that I can link to, and that is linked to our advocacy call on AEC's website, where we are really trying to encourage school districts to reimagine education with this new funding and to invest in holistic learning opportunities that feature the arts. We are having to advocate for that, even though the arts are a core subject by both federal law and in state code. And we're so thrilled. Thank you to our federal government and for the Department of Education for publishing explicitly in the guidelines that school district leaders can spend this money on the arts. And I will link to that in the chat as well if you need receipts for anything, because that's really where we want this money to go. Yes, we do professional learning. Be awesome if school districts were dedicating funds to arts partners, and if AEC got a small part of that, that is wonderful. What we're really focusing our attention is making sure that our children are getting, again, that holistic learning opportunities that feature and highlight the arts so that they can become the people that they're meant to be. So I would love to continue that conversation and that advocacy with all of you, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Dale, thank you so much. All of you were so great. Ani, I feel like you should be doing the transitions. You guys are just really, I don't want to ever have to go after any of you in anything again. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Ms. Jenna Barron.
Hi, everyone. Seriously, Yael, thank you for those moments. That was really beautiful. And also just want to reiterate and emphasize and support everything you said. The arts are such an important medium for the youth that we work with as well, and would just love to see real investments in our education. So I'm Jenna Barron. I'm the executive director of a Pittsburgh-based organization called Arise. And our mission is to support immigrant youth in becoming engaged, confident, and celebrated members of our communities. Our work takes shape as leadership opportunities and out-of-school time programs, mostly after school and summer. And the majority of our youth are Pittsburgh Public Schools youth, though we serve students across our county. It feels important to share just like a bit about who our students are. The majority of our youth are resettled refugees, so they came to the US through the UNHCR process. The majority of the youth that we serve have been displaced for literally decades prior to coming to the US and often have interrupted formal education. There's that piece of it. And the additional piece, which is probably pretty easy for all of us to imagine, is that post-resettlement, post-migration, once our students are here, the adjustment is very harsh and traumatic and confusing and often isolating. And so our work really strives to create spaces where our students can feel solidarity and support from other students who understand what that experience looks like and means, and then to advocate for our communities and especially our schools to be better designed to support our students' multicultural lives as they learn, how to kind of illustrate and embody those lives in Pittsburgh. And I'm also here representing as a chair of the All for All Coalition, which is a coalition of about 30 organizations in Pittsburgh that are collectively working on what's called the Immigrant Community Blueprint. And so some of what I'll share in like this last part of what I'll say is also reflective of some of the conversations that we all have been having about what investments we've been talking about for years and what investments can be made now to create more bridges between immigrant families and schools. And our work is so inherently collaborative. Pittsburgh has a pretty broad ecosystem of organizations that support immigrant families. So really grateful to in some way represent that voice. So in terms of investments that are really important to us, language access is so incredibly important at the school level. We've seen improvements across the county from the school districts in increasing access to interpretation and translation services, but frankly, like there just is not enough money invested in the schools for that purpose. And it's a critical resource in order for our students to be able to, feel that schools are welcoming spaces, and even more importantly, for parents to even understand how the system itself works and to build relationships with the schools. That is something we've been talking about for years, and there's a huge opportunity to really invest in that resource, which is literally transformative. The second thing is we see such a need, our kids talk about this all the time, for people in the school buildings, more people in the school buildings who understand their needs, particularly around mental health. So hiring social workers, paraprofessionals, and interpreters who are in the schools, who are school staff, who understand the needs of immigrant communities, and who can be a liaison in some ways between immigrant communities and the schools is just so critically important. What we see is that ESL teachers are typically the ones carrying all of that responsibility and representation in the schools. They are the ones that not only have to meet the academic needs of students, but also the basic needs and the emotional and social needs. There's just so much more work we can do if the investments are made in making schools actually really supportive places for immigrant youth. And then like kind of a bullet point under that is professional development for all school staff across the district, across the county, for what it looks like, best practices and strategies for supporting immigrant families, and for curriculum that's really reflective of the communities in the schools. And then finally, something that we've already talked about a little bit, and that Lisa was talking about with investments in out of school time programs. We know that after school programs are could be the most nurturing spaces for our students to really express what's going on in their lives, to really get support, to be able to navigate the school system, to have a comfortable space to do so. There's such an opportunity to expand those offerings across the county, and we know it's incredibly needed. I'm going to shout out Emily Blair from Latino Community Center, who they are doing incredible work with after school programs and doing bilingual supports. There's so much opportunity to do more bilingual programming, but it requires lots of capacity. So those are just some examples of things that we've been talking about. There's like a list of 20 things that the coalition came up with, but really grateful to be here with all of you. I feel so inspired by this group. So thanks for this space.
Jenna, thank you so much. And thank you to All for All and all of the work that you and your members have done. I'm just so appreciative of that. Thank you. So this is just a snapshot of the budget book, and I will use this as an opportunity to again plug the budget book. We will be sending that out. If you haven't received a copy of it yet, that will get to your inbox today. Again, it's a draft, and everybody's contact information is on there. So if you are a school district leader who's interested in reaching out to someone to talk about these possibilities for partnerships, as the department highlighted in the beginning here, this is really was their hope for engagement and to really reimagine and rethink what community partnerships in schools can look like. And this is just such a beautiful group and just a ton of amazing work here. And again, just a snapshot, but there's a number of organizations that are in the budget book and who are here today. I see STEM Coding Lab, the YW, Open Literacy, Dr. Christina Dixon's here, coaching and convening. So we're just so thrilled to have you all with us, the Latino Community Center, the United Way. Thank you all so much for all of your work. So this is the beginning of our advocacy. We will be sharing this recording with the department and with partners, and we will continue to work with you all as we navigate kind of moving forward and moving with the pandemic, or I guess out of the pandemic. So thank you all again. And before we close, I just wanted to give a giant shout out to Ani, who's been just super instrumental. So many of you have worked with her on summer and just organizing and networking and just all of the Ani things that she does. Thank you. Thank you to James for the opportunity, and just all of you for being here. Just so appreciate you all. Is there anything, James or Ani, before we close?
I mean, the only thing I would ask, and if it's okay, Christian, is there any advice you would continue to give us, or that you would say from the department's perspective, in terms of advocacy, that you hope to see from, that you haven't already mentioned, that you hope to see from districts and state education agencies around these dollars, and what might we be able to do to like be in line with that kind of engagement process?
So James, that's a great question, but Christian shot me a message. He had to jump just a couple of minutes ago for
that's okay.
Secretary, but we will send him that question in an email, and we'll send it out with our follow-up on the recording.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, well, it's always good to have it on the recording.
Yes, absolutely. Ani, did you have anything to I know, big shout for summer and all of the work you've been doing?
Just big shout for summer, and thank you everyone for making time to be here. I have been with you for 10 years. This year tried to kick me off real hard and you wouldn't even let me hit the ground. So thank you. I love you for being my web and my community. Appreciate you.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all so much. I'm really looking forward to your feedback on the budget book. If there is someone too that you're like, hey, this group needs to be at the table, please get them there. This is an open invitation. Help us understand how to be more inclusive. Who are we missing? Who do we need to support, and what do they need to get there? So any feedback that you have, or anybody else, please let us know. And I'm just very grateful for your work, and thank you all so much for everything you're doing. And we'll just keep at it. So thanks, guys.
Kate, thanks for your leadership. Thanks for your leadership, Kate. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that.
Carlos.
Oh my gosh, Kate. Thank you, Kate. Everybody take the floor for Kate. Thank you,
Kate is great. Kate is great.
You guys did the best. I'll take Fridays with you any day. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks.